So now we're gonna make a cafe frappe or a frappe with coffee. The difference between these two with a base or with a powder is both of them can come as a coffee flavor, which actually adds the coffee to it so you don't have to, or you can still use your neutral base and add coffee to that as well. You can either use your hot espresso or you can do a cold brew concentrate like Toddy Coffee to use for your espresso shots, which actually helps with not melting down the ice to use a cold brew, so your texture and your consistency can be a little bit more accurate. So first we're going to do the liquid beverage base, and on this one we're going to do shots of espresso, and we're actually going to add a flavor to it as well. So we're going to kind of show the difference between the measurements that you're going to use. So on this one you want to go ahead and put in some of your base. And this kind of leaves a little bit at the bottom if you're using your cup, because if you put your syrup in first, it can kind of stick to the bottom where you're not getting the full flavor. So I like to add my syrup, my 2 shots of espresso, and then top off that midway line with your beverage base. Then again, we're going to finish it off with some ice. Throw it in here. Blend. All right, and because we're using that liquid base, it's not going to be overly sweet with that little bit of vanilla, and it's really going to show your coffee a little bit more, especially if you're very proud of your coffee and it works really well in your blended drinks. It's going to really showcase that coffee with that little hint of vanilla and that little sweetness that almost tastes like ice cream from the beverage base. Again, you got a nice creamy texture, and you're good to go. So now we're going to make one with powder. We're going to use similar principles with your milk, your shots of espresso, and your syrup. So again, you want to add a little bit of your milk, your syrup, your shots of espresso, and then top off that midsection with your milk. Now, the difference on this one is you're going to pour the milk straight into the blender without your ice. You want to put your powder on top. This is a way so it doesn't stick to the bottom. If you put the powder in first, it can stick and get under the blades, which can make it a little bit more difficult and kind of chunky. When you put it on top of the liquid, it already starts to dissolve that powder, which makes it a little bit more easier to mix up. And then with putting the heaviness of the ice on top of that, it keeps it to a nice level with the blade so that it mixes up well. You just want to fill up your cup with ice. Top it off. You want to kind of even out the ice in there, again, just so it blends really evenly and nothing gets caught under the blades. And then blend. So now you have your cafe frappe with the powder versus the liquid. So as you can see, one has a little bit of an extra step, but again, it kind of compares to your cost of milk versus your storage and a couple of different things that factor in, but you're gonna get about the same kind of blend, mostly the same kind of flavor profile that you're gonna get from either one. Again, the nice thing about some of the powders is it does come with a very different amount of flavors that you can use. So if you don't like using a neutral base, you want something a little bit more with sweetness or vanilla, you can do that as well. You can also use these bases for your mochas. All you have to do is add your chocolate sauce. With some of the powders, they have a chocolate base that just kind of adds to that chocolatiness. And with that, you can actually cut down on your chocolate sauce usage and use the powder instead. With your regular beverage base, you would want to add that chocolate sauce to it in the full amount that you'd use on a normal mocha. Again, you want to cut back on the liquids if you are going to mix some of the liquid up into it. If you are using powders, you want to make sure to half each powder, even if it's your blender base versus just a powdered chocolate. You want to half and half that powder so it's not too chalky. Now when you are done blending, one of the biggest issues that people have is how to actually clean out your blender. Blenders are very sensitive using your blade. You don't want to wreck the blades or have them dull out. So when you are cleaning your blender, all you need to do is rinse it, Dip it in your sanitizer water, just a quick dip, pour out, and stick it upside down to dry out the blades completely. Most of the commercial blenders do have a little section at the bottom that does create airflow, so it doesn't create water buildup at the bottom, so you should be able to not have water buildup around the blades. The other thing is if you are having a problem with your frappes coming out too chunky or having a hard time getting it out of the blender, that usually means that you have too much ice. With that, you can either add a little bit more liquid, or you can just take it, do a little tap, shake it, and then pour that way. It usually will come out a lot nice and easy. You never want to use a spoon or a metal spoon in there to dig it because it can dull up the blades. So here's the difference between your liquid and powder. The decision is yours, and there you go.